It's a Tuesday morning in a sterile operating room. A surgeon prepares for a routine, high-precision procedure. On the monitor, a multi-million-dollar AI overlay scans the patient. A digital bounding box appears, locking onto a pulsing organ. But the surgeon pauses. The smart target isn't on the tumor. It's locked onto healthy tissue. According to Reuters, this isn't an isolated technical glitch. Reports are emerging of botched surgeries and misidentified body parts across the medical field. It's a phenomenon where high-end software sees an anatomy that simply isn't there. And this reality gap is moving beyond the hospital walls. On April 8, 2026, the darkened terminals of Denver International Airport suddenly go dark. Thousands of travelers are stranded in baggage hubs designed for seamless efficiency. Xcel Energy eventually releases an official statement regarding the incident. They attribute the total blackout to a new equipment failure. Specifically, the failure of the very systems recently installed to modernize the grid. From a 6-day water system outage in Connecticut to frozen metro gates in Russia, the pattern is the same. The tools sold to eliminate human error are introducing a new category of catastrophe. The integration of AI into the operating room was marketed as the final frontier of patient safety. The promise was simple: robotic precision and the elimination of human error. By early 2026, high-resolution digital overlays were no longer experimental features. They were becoming the standard in sterile surgical suites across the country. They were designed specifically to eliminate the flicker of human hesitation. These systems were trained on millions of medical images to identify pathology. They were built to identify anatomy with mathematical certainty. But this drive for intelligent infrastructure wasn't limited to the surgical theater. Outside, utility giants like Xcel Energy were rolling out massive grid modernizations. The goal was to replace aging manual hardware with modernized utility systems. They wanted new equipment, capable of self-healing and automated crisis management. In San Francisco, the Board of Supervisors was already under intense public pressure. They were being asked to oversee a transition toward a reliable public power system. In Connecticut, the Waterbury Water Department managed a subterranean network. These maintenance tunnels were increasingly overseen by automated sensors and digital logs. Even the act of paying for a train ride was being digitized into a single, frictionless stream. In major metropolitan regions, banking apps and metro payment systems were being linked. They were becoming centralized digital hubs for financial liquidity and transport. It was a world where every critical function was being translated into a data model. The marketing materials promised a future where technology acted as a perfect fail-safe. But behind the glossy displays of robotic precision, the Reuters Medical Investigative Unit began finding something else. They were looking at internal hospital reports detailing botched surgeries. In Waterbury, Connecticut, the crisis doesn't end with a simple software reboot. On December 19, 2025, the city begins a 6th day of total dehydration. Internal logs from the Waterbury Water Department show crews performing emergency repairs. They are working on a water system infrastructure that refuses to stabilize. Residents wait for basic sanitation while the taps remain completely dry. Meanwhile, the hardware surfaces of the new network remain entirely unresponsive. The frustration is turning into a direct challenge to the private utility monopolies. In California, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors holds an emergency session. On January 7, 2026, they move for the acquisition of PG&E assets. They want to transition to a public power system and seize existing hardware assets. It is a desperate attempt to claw back control from a grid that keeps going dark. Officials cite a total loss of public trust in automated and private utility systems. But the major outage isn't confined to the borders of the United States. On April 6, the reality gap hits the metropolitan transit systems of Russia. A major regional outage freezes banking apps and metro payment systems simultaneously. Commuters find themselves physically trapped behind frozen metro gates. These gates no longer recognize digital currency or centralized payment hubs. It's a total disruption of financial liquidity triggered by a centralized system failure. The Reuters Medical Investigative Unit continues to tally the cost in the operating room. They are tracking a surge in surgical trauma and botched surgeries. It is linked directly to the misidentifying of human organs during procedures. These incidents aren't just statistics found in an institutional report. They are permanent physical injuries suffered by patients in high-tech clinics. The new equipment failure at Denver International Airport is no longer a localized glitch. It is the sound of the modern safety net tearing at the seams. From the water main to the heart valve, the system malfunction is becoming the new baseline. The infrastructure is brand new and the logic is flawless. And yet the metropolitan transport is paralyzed and the taps are still dry. The surgeon from that Tuesday morning eventually finishes the procedure by hand. He turns the multi-million-dollar AI monitor toward the hospital wall. In Waterbury, the emergency repairs to the water main are technically complete, but the city's water logs remain open for evaluation. The 6-day water system outage has become a permanent fixture of local memory. San Francisco's move to seize PG&E assets is still winding through the courts. The utility company maintains that the grid is more intelligent than ever. At Denver International Airport, the baggage hubs are finally bright again. The new equipment that caused the blackout hasn't been removed or replaced. It is still integrated into the grid, waiting for the next unscripted calculation. In an empty, darkened operating room, a multi-million-dollar surgical console sits on standby. A system offline notification blinks rhythmically against the glass screen. Its sensors are still active, scanning the air of the sterile room. They are searching for an anatomy it was never built to actually see.